serenading like lemonade, picturing the serene, clean sort of life on solid. What does that mean? What does it mean to win? What brings forth the aftermath of what is brought forth in the aftermath of victory? Do we all get to share in the spoils? Are we just mere victims of a higher authority? What's your blessing? What's worth your blessing? Another way to put it, another question relating to that is, what's your blessing worth? You know, and finally, can you define your understanding of the afterbirth? Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Po3tryJournal Podcast. I am your host, Alex Murdock. And what you just heard is kind of like a template I want to go off today. Now, it's a little bit different than, my usual. There's a little bit of poetry to begin with, but yeah, as you see, as you notice, it's more questions. No guests today, just on my own, and just want to pick your brain a little bit. Just got a few things in mind surrounding these questions, which I'm going to fill in the gaps in between to kind of paint the picture, to sort of show you where I'm coming from with this whole thing. Okay, let's go back and we'll start again, and I'll tell you where my mind is with this whole thing that I just kind of depicted for you. Okay. I guess to begin with, serenading like lemonade, picturing the serene, clean sort of life of the unsullied. And I guess when I expressed that, it was more a thought of like, I'm picturing, I guess in layman terms, another way to picture it is almost like American Dream, perhaps, is an example of it, where it's almost like, you're on your path in life. And I think to an extent that's winning in itself, isn't it? When you figure out where you want to be, what you want to do, and there is a stigma attached to that, in the sense where half the battle is actually getting to that point in life where you actually know exactly what you want to do. And so that's why I would put that, that whole idea of like the American dream. But I guess what I'm saying is, in other words, it's almost like a summary of success. And you're in that path where like it's something that you're self-sustaining, yeah, you're accomplished. And so in a way, you kind of live a life where unsolid in a form where you don't actually have to struggle anymore because you found a way, and I've said this before, but previously, it's almost like a graduation, a graduation from a graduation from survival to living, and there's power in that. It's very powerful. So I guess that would be the meaning behind that. It would also be what I mean in terms of like my definition to win. My definition to win would be that particular summary. If you want to get specific, because, to an extent, you kind of have to, as an individual, you have to be specific with your summary of what it is that you want to accomplish, that you know about yourself, that is your path in life, particularly, and how you're gonna get there. Not necessarily how, but you want to have an idea where you're going to be or where you want to be, because you can always figure out the particulars or the necessities later on. So I guess what I'm saying is, in my case, my thing is a big thing for me has always been knowledge of path, thereby having knowledge of self to know what your path is, and being certain that, being certain in that lane and never deviate. And to an extent, you grow to a point where you never doubt. You never doubt your growth. You never doubt your path. And, you stick to it. You commit to it. You grow in it. You excel in it. And of course, my path has always been creating, specifically writing, poetry and stories. That's my passion in life. Books, and just kind of expression in itself, performing, like, I think they're all, I like to think of it all in like, in one, it's like an umbrella, and these are just like different limbs of the same tree in a sense. Well, different limbs on the same tree. So that would be my definition of win. We all have our own. So I guess that's why I would ask, what does it mean to win for you? What is brought forth in the aftermath of victory? Now, this is something where it's a bit more complex. I say that to say we all have an idea of what we want, or an idea of what we want for ourselves in terms of like accomplishment, etc. But to an extent, I've learned over the years that sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean you have total control over your destiny in a sense, and sometimes I've realized that, it's almost like sometimes you might end up in a situation where it's almost like you're in a sort of orchestration if you're not careful, um, where or if you're not careful, you end up in a type of facade where it looks good, it seems tangible, but when you look further, or you really look into it with a telescope, in a sense, it's almost like, is it really tangible? Is it? And you realize, I think a lot of people realize, it's almost like this really is this really is a facade. It really it's kind of like smoke screens and mirrors, you know, because it's like a stage where when you look behind it, you don't know it, but you have people behind you pulling all the strings. It's kind of like what do you call it? Dorothy on the yellow brick road, and eventually going in to find the guy that and realizing it was all, he was really a fake, and to fake the whole time. He was a fake person the whole time, like, or fake god or whatnot. Um, so that is where the idea I have, and I say that to say, how much control do you have of your own destiny? I think that's a question that is always relevant, um, always relevant. So curious mind ask curious questions. So that's where I'm going with that. And to that question, I would ask, do we all get to share in the spoils? Let me break that down. I guess where I'm coming from with this question is kind of like, when you win, it's almost, in any sense, in any competition or winning anything is almost like there's a rite of passage. And it's almost like you have to go through like a war, if not a battle, to get somewhere. And so, in any battle or war, the winner is supposed to be privy to the spoils, aren't they? And if it was orchestrated in the first place for you to win, if you're a paper champion, are you really are you really are you really do you really deserve such accolades, such deserve the spoils, everything that comes with being in that position, if it wasn't real in the first place? Um, are we just mere victims of a higher authority? And you know, I guess I'm still consistent in the sense of like, what we think, we hold on to these concepts of like winning and dreams coming to reality, and all these different concepts to make us uh, feel worthwhile about life, feel happy about where we are and comfortable, and you know that's all well and done, but I always find certain things like that, it also breeds complacency. It also breeds development of insecurities to the point where you miss the point sometimes. You miss what life is really trying to show you. It's almost like, when you hear about certain things happening, like say, unfortunate, like say maybe a shooting or something like that. Around the same time that you have something even more, something just as, well, something even more life-changing for the greater masses. And, that distraction away from that particular thing is almost like it was pivotal to somebody else's story that you kind of played a part in. And I think, that's where I am. I think by now you kind of get an idea where I'm going with this. And so to that question, I would follow with this. What's worth your blessing? What's worth your blessing? Because at the end of the day, if you don't have the full picture to really grasp what you're putting your blessing on, how can you grasp that you're putting your positive energy into something that's worthwhile? That's, it's worth you buying into. Which begs the question, right? What is your blessing worth? What is your blessing worth? Because if your blessing is worth something substantial, now it doesn't have to be to anybody else, but if it's worth something substantial to you, being a thorough person and being about your business, etc., right? Then it's not something that you would just, something that that means there's something that you cherish. And if it's something that you cherish, it doesn't mean that you're gonna be willy-nilly just give it away to any cause. That means you're a person that stands for something. And if that's the case, that means it's got to make sense because your blessing is worth something. And then finally, can you define your understanding of the afterbirth? No, the afterbirth, the afterbirth. I guess where I'm going with this is almost like, you go through life and it's almost like eventually, let's say, the caterpillar situation, and it's a process to becoming a butterfly. And I guess what I'm saying is that analogy is almost like an explanation to kind of depict the process that goes into becoming something that you've been ordained, that was preordained. You've been selectively pre-selected, I should say, by the universe to be. This is your destiny kind of thing. And so it's almost like, what does that entail for you? And I guess why I'm asking this, it's almost like, I think it's relevant because it begs the question, it begs the idea to really think about is that, are you living your story, or are you living in somebody else's story? You know, are you living your story, or are you living on a page in somebody else's story? And to that effect, I know there was a lot to unpack with this one. So to that effect, I'll leave it there. As you know, I'm a thinker, and I like to, throw different things out there. Uh, but I hope you enjoy some of these spanners I like to throw in the works. Um, I hope you enjoy the method to my madness and where I like to take things. Also, I hope you appreciate some of the different uh, guests I've had on recently, because it has been interesting just learning different thought processes, learning about different thought processes and where people come from with their own creativity. It has been intriguing for sure. Um, but as you know, this is a platform about questions, thoughts, art, poetry, creativity in general, and it never stops. Um, but thanks everyone for tuning in, and as you know, I have a lot of I have a few works out there, poetry, stories, and I would love for you to tune in and yeah, support what I'm trying to do, because I have so much more coming, and but I'll keep people updated as we go along. But I like to say thanks to everyone for following me on my journey, and paying attention to the people that I pay attention to, and I'm trying to I'm inspired by them as much as they're inspired by me, I like to think. But in any case, thanks everyone for tuning in. Until next time, take care.